The shadow of the Skinwalker. In the remote deserts of New Mexico, there's a stretch of land known as the Whispering Sands. The locals speak of it in hushed tones, warning outsiders to stay away after dark. They say the land is cursed, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead blur, and where ancient evil roams. Olivia had heard the stories, of course, but she was a skeptic. As a journalist, she believed in facts, not folklore. When her editor suggested she write a piece on the so-called Skinwalker, she eagerly accepted the challenge. She rented a small cabin on the edge of the Whispering Sands and began her research. The first few days were uneventful. Olivia interviewed the locals, who were all too eager to share their tales of eerie sightings and strange occurrences. But the more she listened, the more the stories began to seep into her mind, gnawing at her skepticism. The Navajo spoke of the Skinwalker as a malevolent witch, capable of transforming into animals to stalk its prey. Others described it as a shadowy figure that could mimic the voices of loved ones, luring victims into the night. On the fourth night, Olivia decided to explore the desert herself. Armed with her camera and notebook, she ventured into the sands as the sun dipped below the horizon. The desert was eerily quiet, save for the soft whisper of the wind. But as she walked further, the air grew heavy, and the shadows seemed to lengthen, creeping toward her. Suddenly, she heard a faint rustling behind her. She turned quickly, but there was nothing there, only the empty desert. Shaking off her unease, she continued on. But the sound came again, closer this time. Olivia quickened her pace, her heart beginning to race. Then, a voice echoed through the darkness, soft and familiar. "Olivia." She froze. It was her sister's voice, but how? Her sister was miles away, safe in their home in the city. The voice came again, pleading, "Olivia, please. Help me." Her mind raced. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the voice so filled with desperation compelled her to move toward it. She followed the sound, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The voice led her to an old, dilapidated shed half buried in the sands. She hesitated at the door, her hand trembling as she reached for the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a darkness so deep it seemed to swallow the light. "Olivia, I'm inside. Help me." The voice was louder now, but there was something off about it, something that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. But it was too late. She had come too far. She stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind her, plunging the room into total darkness. Panic surged through her, and she fumbled for her flashlight. When it flickered on, the beam fell upon the corner of the shed, where a figure crouched, its back turned to her. "Olivia." The voice whimpered again, but this time it was wrong, distorted, as if spoken through gritted teeth. Slowly, the figure began to rise, its bones cracking and shifting beneath its skin. The shape was all wrong, twisting and elongating as it turned to face her. Olivia's breath caught in her throat as she stared into the eyes of the creature, a twisted mockery of her sister's face, stretched over a monstrous form, the Skinwalker. Its lips curled into a grotesque smile, and it lunged at her with unnatural speed. Olivia screamed, the sound swallowed by the desert night as she fled from the shed. The creature's laughter echoed in her ears as she ran, the sand shifting beneath her feet. She didn't stop until she reached her cabin, slamming the door shut behind her. Her chest heaved with fear, her mind racing. She knew then that the stories were true. The Skinwalker was real, and it was hunting her. The next morning, Olivia packed her things, abandoning her story. As she drove away from the Whispering Sands, she glanced in the rearview mirror. In the distance, she saw a figure standing by the roadside, watching her. It was her sister, or at least it wore her face. Olivia pressed down on the accelerator, her heart pounding as she fled. But deep down, she knew the truth. You can never truly escape the Skinwalker. Because once it finds you, it never stops hunting. And in the shadows of the desert, the Skinwalker smiled, knowing it would see her again.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more tales from the dark. Until next time, stay safe and beware of the shadows.